Music is older than language. Not as a metaphor. The oldest musical instrument ever found is 60,000 years old. The oldest complete sentence we can reconstruct in any human language is roughly 6,000 years old. Between those two numbers sits 54,000 years. 54,000 years of music. Without words, before anyone could say, "I love you," or "I'm afraid." Before those phrases existed in any form, someone was already expressing everything those phrases contain. With sound. Deliberately shaped sound, produced by a bone they spent time piercing and put to their lips. The question isn't why ancient humans made music. The question is why they needed it before they had anything else. Sound appears everywhere in nature. Animals call, birds sing, insects make noise. Almost all of it is functional. A warning, a territorial claim, a mating signal. The message and the sound are the same thing. No layer underneath. Music is different. Music produces an emotional state without specifying what that state is for. It bypasses the part of your brain that asks, "What does this mean?" and lands somewhere older. Somewhere that doesn't need a translation. Evolutionary biologists have argued about this for decades. Charles Darwin thought music evolved from mating calls. Robin Dunbar argues it's acoustic grooming, the sound equivalent of primate touch. Steven Pinker famously called it auditory cheesecake. Pleasurable, but evolutionarily accidental. A byproduct of language and pattern recognition. The evidence doesn't support Pinker. Music doesn't appear to be a byproduct of language. It appears to predate it. The bone found in Slovenia came before any reconstructable sentence by 54,000 years. Music wasn't invented because humans got bored with language. Music came first. Which means it solved a problem that language hadn't been invented yet to solve. The question is, what problem? In 1995, in a cave in northwestern Slovenia called Divje Babe, a researcher found something unusual in the sediment. A fragment of cave bear femur, roughly 60,000 years old. 2 complete holes through the bone, fragments suggesting 2 more. The holes were evenly spaced. They were not bite marks, not geological pressure. They were drilled. The debate over who made it ran for 30 years. The sediment layer was Neanderthal territory. No Homo sapiens in that region at that time. For decades, skeptics argued the holes were accidental, made by carnivore teeth or geological forces. In 2024, a team published micro-CT analysis of the bone. The holes show rotational drilling by a pointed tool, applied at consistent angles. The wear patterns match no known natural process. A Neanderthal made this. Researchers have recreated the instrument and played it. The holes, spaced as they are on a cave bear femur, produce notes that fall within a diatonic scale. The same basic scale underlying most Western music today. Whether that's intentional or just anatomical coincidence is still debated. But the sounds are not noise. They are notes. They have relationships to each other. Played in sequence, they produce something you would recognize. You're holding a bone in both hands. Heavy, still curved from the animal it came from. You've spent days on this, carving, testing angles, pressing your thumb against each hole to check the size. You've blown into it before and gotten only air, but today you know the holes are right. You raise it to your lips. You blow. A sound comes out. Not wind through a crack. Not anything you have heard before. Something shaped. Something controlled. Something that did not exist in this cave or anywhere until this exact moment. You lower the bone, stare at it, then you play it again. Why would a Neanderthal do this? The functional theories don't hold. Music is worse than gesture for navigation, worse than vocalization for specific warnings. If you're trying to coordinate a hunt, organized sound is a liability. It announces your position. So why? The leading theory in evolutionary musicology is synchrony. When humans, and some other primates, move or vocalize in unison, something measurable happens. Heart rates align, pain thresholds increase. The perception of self and other shifts slightly. Group cohesion rises in ways you can quantify. Experiments with synchronized drumming show this happens quickly. After 20 minutes of drumming together, strangers trust each other more, cooperate more readily, describe each other in more generous terms. The effect replicates across cultures with no historical contact. In 2014, researchers tested this directly. Two groups of strangers. One talked for 20 minutes, the other drummed together. Afterward, both groups did cooperation exercises that measure trust. The drummers cooperated significantly more than the talkers. Not a marginal difference, a measurable one. 20 minutes of shared rhythm produced more trust than 20 minutes of conversation. This matters in a world before contracts, before governments, before any institutional mechanism for enforcing trust. The only thing holding a group together is the felt sense that these people are my people, that we move the same way, that something connects us below the level of what we can say. Language can tell you someone is trustworthy. Music can make you feel it before you've decided what to think. That gap between the feeling and the decision, music lives there. Not through argument or explanation, through something more physical, a change in breathing, a shift in your shoulders, a sudden awareness that the person beside you is breathing at the same rate. Music coordinates emotional states across multiple bodies simultaneously. No other technology does this. Not language, not gesture, not any tool ever made. Just sound, organized into rhythm and pitch, moving through air, landing in chests. A Neanderthal in a cave in Slovenia understood something about that gap. We're still arguing about it in peer-reviewed journals. Here's what gets overlooked. The Divje Babe flute is the oldest confirmed instrument. Music almost certainly predates it. Instruments survive, voices don't. Drumming on hollow logs leaves no trace. Clapping, humming, rhythmic breathing, all of it happens in the body and disappears. We found the bone. We didn't find the singing. Music archaeology is like finding one photograph from a relationship that lasted decades. The photograph proves something real existed. It tells you almost nothing about what it felt like from the inside. Think about the last song that stopped you. Not playing pleasantly in the background, actually stopped you. Made you want to tell someone about it, even though explaining why it worked would require more words than it was worth. That impulse, to share a sound with someone else, to try to recreate it for them, is not modern. The person who made the Divje Babe flute did not play it alone in a cave. An instrument only makes sense if there is an audience. Music was never private. What we know for certain, every human culture ever documented makes music. Not most, all of them. Cultures separated by oceans and millennia, with no historical contact, independently developed singing, rhythm, instruments, song. That level of universal parallel emergence does not happen by accident. Music is not something humans learned. It is something humans are. But I keep coming back to that first moment. Before music was ceremony. Before it was ritual. Before anyone realized it could hold a group together, or mark a death, or carry a memory across generations, there was a person with a bone. They had spent time on it, not by accident. Days of patient drilling, testing the angles, checking that the holes were the right size. They put it to their lips. And something came out. Not a warning, not a mating call, not information. Something shaped and controlled and new, floating out into the dark of a cave that has since been filled in, excavated, and studied by people who still cannot fully agree on what it means. That person did not know what they had made. They just knew the sound felt different from silence. That making it felt different from not making it. That the feeling it produced, somewhere in the chest, had no name yet. Because nothing that caused this feeling had ever existed before in the history of life on Earth. They sat in the dark, listened to the sound fade, and then played it again. You hear a song sometimes and something happens you can't explain. Not to every song. To specific ones, at specific moments. A particular arrangement, a note combination. It lands somewhere words don't reach. Before you've decided how you feel. Before you've named what it is. You felt this your whole life. You have never been able to describe it precisely. Neither could the person who first heard organized sound come out of a bare bone in a cave 60,000 years ago. Not the same song, not the same notes. The same place it lands. Every song anyone has ever written, Every piece of music anyone has ever made or heard or shared. All of it connects backward through 60,000 years to a Neanderthal in a cave in Slovenia who picked up a bare bone and decided to drill holes in it. That part of you was built for this. It has been waiting a very long time.